All right, everybody, what is going on? Welcome to another edition of SWAC Talk. This is the show. We'll cover the SWAC inside and out. Of course, I am your tour guide around the SWAC, C. Wells, coming at you. And we're going to continue this tour around the SWAC doing our 12-team season previews. Today, we would do the Alabama State Hornets. Last show, we previewed Alabama A&M, so you can check that out. I'm going to put together a playlist, and I'll have all the preview videos on there. In case you missed any of them, obviously there's only one at this point before it, but this one and that one will be there. And then we'll continue through these until we get up to week 0, and we'll do a week 0 preview and then a week 0 recap. Media day is right around the corner. So actually, media day is tomorrow. So make sure you check out our episode of SWAC Smoke, which will recap media day and any other things that happen. So make sure you check out the socials that are on the screen right now. Facebook is SWAC Talk, Instagram is SWAC Talk, Twitter, SWAC Talk 76. Subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so already, if you have, man, thank you very much. If not, man, please go ahead and subscribe. I'll hit that notification bell to be alerted to any videos that I do upload that's not on my Wednesday and Sunday schedule. Like the video, share them, and feel free to comment. And let's not waste any time, man. Let's go ahead and jump into this Alabama State preview. But before we start the preview, we're going to recap last season. The Hornets finished 5-6 on the season, 3-5 in the SWAC. They opened up their season with a 14-13 overtime victory over Miles. They lost to Auburn 62-0. They beat Bethune-Cookman 38-24. They lost to Florida A&M 28-0. They beat UAPB 35-15. They lost to Jackson State 28-7. They lost to Alabama A&M 42-28. They lost to Prairie View 24-20. They lost to Mississippi Valley 44-31. They beat Texas Southern 24-21. And they closed out their season 43-9 winners over Tuskegee. Now, after the Magic City Classic, they fired Coach Donald Hill Ely, and they went with an interim for the remainder of the season. And then they brought in Coach Eddie Robinson. So we'll talk about that when we get ready to talk about our preview. Looking at some of the numbers from this past season, the Hornets had a pretty good. Defensively they were pretty solid defensively. Looking at the numbers on the season, they were 9th in the league in scoring offense at 21.8 points per game. They scored a total of 31 touchdowns, and they made eight field goals and 30 extra points on the season, giving them 240 total points. Defensively, they were 6th in the league in scoring defense at 28.2 points per game allowed. They allowed 42 touchdowns, 6 field goals, 38 extra points, and 1 safety, giving them 310 points allowed. Total offense, they ranked 11th in the league at 298 yards per game. Defensively, they were 4th in the league in total defense at 348 points, 348 yards per game. They allowed 5.7 yards per play. Offensively, they gained 4.8 yards per play. So offensively, they just never really could get anything going. Defensively, they were pretty solid. I think, they wasted a few defensive efforts with the way their offense played. They were 11th in the league in rushing offense at 107 yards per game, 3.3 yards per carry, 9 touchdowns. Defensively, they were 6th in the league in rushing defense at 152 yards per game, allowing 4.7 yards per carry and 22 touchdowns. Passing offense, they ranked 9th in the league at 190 yards per game. They had 18 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, completing 59% of their passes. Defensively, they were 5th in the league in passing defense at 196 yards per game, 18 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. So they didn't really turn the ball over, get in very many turnovers on the season. Kickoff returns, they were 10th in the league, averaging 16.9 yards per return, although they did have a kickoff return touchdown. Punt returns, they were fourth in the league at 11 yards per return with 3 touchdowns on the season. So they were a very good team when it comes to punt returns. That 3 touchdowns led the league in that regard. Kickoffs, they were fourth in the league with a 39-yard average net. Average kickoff was 54.9 yards per kick. They had 6 touchbacks on the season. Field goals, they were 8 of 11 for 72%. That was 5th place. Extra points, they were 3rd in the league at 30 of 31 for 96%. Punting, they averaged 32 and a half yards on net per punt and 37 yards total punt average per kick. Defensively, they registered 26 sacks on the season, which was good for 5th place. The offensive line allowed 23 sacks on the season, which was good for 5th place. Interceptions, they had 4 on the season, as I said before, which put them at 11th in the league. First downs, they were 8th in the league, averaging 17 and a half first downs per game, 192 total. The opponents had 17.3 first downs per game, 190 total, which was good for 3rd place. Third down conversions, they were 5th place with 38%, 59 of 154. Defensively, they allowed 33% conversion rate on third downs for good for 4th place, 46 of 139. 4th downs, they were 7th in the league, 4 of 10 for 40%. Defensively, they only allowed the opponents to convert 35% on 4th down conversions at 7 of 20, which was good for 2nd place. Penalties, they averaged 65 yards per game in penalties, 78 penalties, 716 yards. That's good for 8th place. The opponents averaged 51 yards per game in penalties, 65 penalties for 570 yards. That's good for 10th place. I'm looking at some of their individual numbers on the season. The leader rusher was Ja'Cory Merritt. He had 120 carries for 422 yards, averaged 3.5 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. Ezra Gray was the second leading rusher. He had 100 carries for 401 yards, 4 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Ryan Nettles was third, 44 carries, 104 yards, 2.4 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Dontre Manley, 10 carries for 97 yards, 9.7 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Passing, Ryan Nettles was the leading passer on the season, 122 of 205. 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1,194 yards, 59% completion. Miles Crawley was 35 of 65, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 53%, 459 yards. Joe Owens, 45 of 66, 441 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 68% completion rate. Receiving, Jeremiah Hickson, 44 catches for 563 yards, 12.8 yards per catch, 4 touchdowns. Kieron Jones, 39 catches, 388 yards, 9.9 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. Wallace Corker, 34 catches, 325 yards, 9.5 yards per catch, 5 touchdowns. Joshua Knight, 15 catches, 133 yards, 8.8 yards per catch, no touchdowns. Defensively, they were led by Ershaw Davis with 65 total tackles, Nicholas Terry, 42, Christian Clark, 40, Jake Howard, 35, Keenan Isaac, 33. Tackles for loss, Jake Howard, 8.5, Terry, 7, Clark, 7, Davis, 6, Bundrich, 4.5. Sacks, Howard with 3, Long and Eccles each had 2.5. Terry, Davis, Johnson, and Gaddy each had 2 sacks apiece. Interceptions, Davis had 3, and Jeffrey Scott had the other interception. Aubrey Grace was the punter. He averaged 36.2 yards per punt, 2,359 yards on 65 punts. Hunter Hanson was 6 of 7 on field goals, for 85%. His long on the season was 47. And kickoffs, Hansen was the guy on kickoffs, 33 kicks, 1,785 yards, 54-yard average, 5 touchbacks. Returns, Robert McMahon was the leading punt returner with 21 returns, 224 yards, 10.6 yards per return, 2 touchdowns. Robert Rivers also had a punt return touchdown. Kickoff returns, Ezra Gray, 13 returns, 237 yards, 18-yard average. That led the team. Like I said, this past season, if you look at the numbers, the offense just, really struggled a lot finding an identity. They had 2 really good backs in Gray and Merritt, but Gray was kind of banged up throughout the season, so he didn't really get the amount of carries that you probably would have expected a guy like him to get. He ended up playing in only 9 games 9 out of the 11 games in the season, so he missed a couple games, and he just never really was able to get going. I thought the running game works great when they're both healthy because they are different styles of backs. Although they relatively, similar size, Merritt's a bit stronger. Gray's more of a speed slasher type of guy, and they work well together. But offensively, they struggles were really at the quarterback position. Ryan Nettles really struggled this past season. He never really put it together coming off of that spring season. He had some inconsistencies, and that led to him, inconsistencies and injuries led to him getting benched. And Miles Crawley played, then Joe Owens played. So they just never really had a consistent offense or an identity. Jeremiah Hickson was a guy who was a surprise, who kind of came on strong during the season for them. But defensively, they were a very good defense. Obviously top 4, top 5 defense in almost every category, and they were very, very tough. A lot of efforts to keep this team in a lot of games, as they didn't really get blown out a lot in games. Being shut out twice hurts, especially getting shut out by a conference opponent. That hurts a lot. But that kind of leads into that leads into some big changes for Alabama State this upcoming season. Obviously, they're bringing in a new head coach in Eddie Robinson. He's bringing in a lot of new attitude. The guys are very very excited, and they're behind him. They didn't sign a huge class. They brought in some talented guys. They hit the portal pretty hard. They found a quarterback that a lot of people believe will be their starter in Demetrius Davis. They got him out the portal from Auburn. He's a guy who is a big time talent. A lot of people think he's a very special kid. So he can if he can take the reins and lead this offense, I think that will help them a lot. They lost Ryan Nettles in the transfer portal. He ultimately transferred to Tuskegee. So, they'll see him again. But this was this team, they're building up some momentum. Like I said, they started off a little bit slow on the recruiting trail, but they're picking up some steam, and they've been getting quite a few transfers the last few weeks. So the guys they're bringing in on defense, if they can mesh with what they already have on defense, that defense is going to continue to be stout. Your head coach was an all-time great linebacker at your school, so he's a guy who's going to have a defensive mind. But offensively is where this team is gonna, ultimately improve or not improve. Obviously having a guy like Davis who's electric at quarterback, if he can play up to his capabilities and what a lot of people believe that he can do, then this team will be a very special team. It's a lot to really still take into account. They have a new coach. This is first year being a head coach, so there's always those kind of things to take into account. That doesn't necessarily mean that they can't win. It's just something to look out for in early season. As this team kind of finds their way, getting the offensive system down, and getting the most out of the talent that they have. So, looking at the schedule for the season right now, they open up their season On August 27th and week 0, they open up their season against Howard in the MEAC SWAC Challenge. This is a big game, and I hate to call an early season game, especially a week 1 game. I hate to call a week 1 game a must win, but this is a game that's going to carry a lot of external pressure for the Hornets. Not really. I don't really think it's a lot of pressure for them as a program, but I think it's a lot of pressure from outside because the SWAC has only won, I think, 4 MEAC SWAC challenges. So ultimately, let me get myself situated here. So ultimately, the SWAC really needs this W as a conference. I can't get myself organized. Whatever. They can't. They haven't really found that success as a conference in this challenge. So obviously, a lot of people feel like this is a game that Alabama State has to win for conference supremacy and bragging rights. But it's the first game against a team who a lot of people feel is much improved. Howard's going to be a pretty strong opponent. They're looking to make a statement in the MEAC. So I feel like this is a game that Alabama State needs to win. And this is one of those games I think it may not make or break their season, but in terms of early season confidence, I think you need to win this game. Heading into the Miles game on September 3rd. Last season, Miles gave them a good run, and it came down to the very end. They need to be focused on this game and not take this team lightly. Miles does have a new head coach this season, but this team, they lost a few key guys from that past season. So we'll see, if they can come with the same fire that they came with last year. But, coming home off of the MEAC SWAC Challenge, if they can win that game, then I think that'll help them going into the Miles game. So if they are able to win that game, they may be able to snowball a couple wins early into the season. If they lose that game, the first game, then that means they're gonna have to regroup right away against a Miles team that's gonna be hungry for an upset. So the first 2 games are very vital because the third game is against UCLA on September 10th, and obviously that's just a huge money game, and that's it is what it is. September 24th, they host Prairie View. That's a very interesting game to me, because Prairie View is another one of those teams that we don't really know what they're gonna have. They have a new head coach as well. They're gonna have some turnover on both sides of the ball. They took some losses in the portal on defense. They lost a couple key offensive guys. They lost the quarterback. So they're gonna be kind of rebuilding. So this is a game. Again, this is a game that's very vital, especially because in the next couple of weeks, your schedule potentially is gonna ramp up a lot. So you need, this is another game, I think, kind of like the Howard game. It's not going to make or break your season, but this is a conference game, so there's a little extra added weight on it, and it's your first conference game, so you want to obviously get off on a good foot. So this is another must-win type of game. October 1st, they go to Houston to take on Texas Southern. Another interesting game. This past season, they were able to defeat Texas Southern in a close affair. TSU is a team a lot of people feel like will be a West Division contender. Some people feel like they will win the West. They have one of the top quarterbacks in the conference, and so there's going to be a challenge for this defense. If Alabama State's offense can find some kind of way to get some consistency moving the ball, and the quarterback play is as promised, then this could be a very entertaining game. This is a game that they can steal it on the road. That can help them a lot because they sends them into the October 8th game against Jackson State, which is their homecoming. That's a very big game. Obviously Jackson State is East Division defending champs and probably will be East Division champs again, barring anything crazy happening. So, this is probably the biggest game, or the second biggest game on their schedule in terms of hype and pressure. So, you want to get a good showing in this game. I thought you had, a decent chance against JSU last year. Some bad mistakes, cost you in the first half, and you just didn't have anything in the tank to kind of keep up with them in the second half. So you need to have a better showing in this one. Although this will be a tough one to win, and that bleeds you into the October 15th game against Mississippi Valley. Mississippi Valley, I said it in my Alabama A&M preview, and I'm gonna say it in every other preview until I'm done, and I'll probably say it for most of the season. Valley is a team that a lot of people feel like is a dark horse. Now, I'm not saying a dark horse in terms of winning a division, but a dark horse in terms of being a mid level team, a mid pack team, finishing 3 or 4 in the division. They are gonna be tough. They have some weapons on offense. Defensively, they're tough, and they are. It's gonna be the key for Valley is how they play on the road. So if they can start to bring that energy from it being on the road, then this can be a tougher game than some people may think. Alabama State, coming off of the JSU game and an open date before the Magic City Classic game, this can be a trap game in a sense because this game is sandwiched in between 2 big games. If the season is going fairly well, then this game can be a big boost for them. But if things are kind of rocky, this game can maybe turn the season one way or the other. So this game is very vital heading into your bye week against Alabama. Heading into your bye week before you head into the Magic City Classic against Alabama A&M on October 29th, which obviously is a must win this season. You lost this game 4 years in a row, 4 times in a row. You lost the season 4 times in a row, which means that you have to win this. You definitely need to win this, and there's no 2 ways about that. You can't lose to your rival multiple times. 5 times, new coach. That just cannot happen. So you really need to win this game to put yourself in a better position to finish your season out strong. That brings you to the November 5th game against Bethune-Cookman. Again, another must win. This is a team who struggled last season. You need to find a way to win this game on the road. There's no 2 ways about that. And that takes you into Florida A&M on November 12th. That's a home game for you. This could be a team who's 1 or 2 in the division. So again, there's no easy task here. This team ultimately, like I said, how this offense plays is probably going to be the difference in a winning season and a losing season, because I think the defense will continue to be solid all year, just like they were the year before. Offense to me is the biggest question mark. So that unless things totally shake out 100% in a positive manner, I think this team will struggle if they can't find any offensive rhythm. And that takes you into the final game of the season, which is the Turkey Day Classic on Thanksgiving, November 24th against UAPB. This game, plain and simple, is a must-win, man. You got to beat UAPB at home for any semblance of your season. So looking at this schedule, it's not a bad schedule in terms of your big games. You have that Monday game, which is a hella long trip, but you get a bye week after that before you play Prairie View. So that helps you out there, and you play Prairie View at home before so that helps a lot. The SWAC challenge is very important. I think as a fan, there's a lot of pressure in this game for the conference to win. So I'm looking at this as a must win. So they have an opportunity if they win that game to start off 2-0 before they play UCLA. PV is a winnable game. TSU, is not an unwinnable game. I'm not saying it's an easy game, but we still don't know exactly where TSU is. So that's a game that they may have a shot if they can play well. JSU game is going to be tough. That's probably one of their certain losses, although you can never 100% say that, but that would be a game that I would probably count as a loss. Valley is at home, so I think that helps a little bit, but that's a winnable game. A&M is a winnable game. It's, they've had their chances in this series the last few years, but they've come up short. Bethune-Cookman, another winnable game. FAMU is going to be tough. If they continue to play like they did last season, they'll be a division contender. So that's going to be a tough game. And Pine Bluff is definitely a must-win game. So they have on their schedule, as I see it right now, they have 3 for sure losses. And if you sprinkle in, another loss or 2, I see this being a 7-win season. Probably best case is 7-4. I think the worst case is like 5-6. I don't think they'll finish worse than that. I think if this offense can get clicking early and they can win those first 2 games of the season, that will help a lot. If they can win, if they can win 4 out of their first 5, I think they'll be in great shape. That's not impossible. But a lot of it hinges on that first game. Now, the team you see in Atlanta in week 1 would probably not be the same team that you see in terms of performance at the end of the season. So I wouldn't really weigh a whole lot on that first game, as far as, if they don't look great, then the season is a wash. They can look, up and down in that game and still come out on top later in the season. So, again, I think I'm predicting 7-4 season. I think they'll be in decent shape in terms of the division because I think, I think they have the chance to take that next step. I like their defense a lot better than Alabama A&M's defense. If the offense can, improve a little, I think this team will be a key factor in this division. So that's going to do it for this Alabama State preview. Next one we'll preview is Alcorn. So stay tuned for that. And SWAC Smoke coming at you on Thursday, live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And that's going to do it for me. I'm going to stop the bus, and I'm going to head out, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day, and I'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.